Well, good morning, my stitchy friends. Well, actually, it's not morning anymore. It's afternoon. You've reached the NeedleBugg. My name is Karen, and thank you so very much for joining me today. Today, I thought I'd do a little bit of a stitch with me. And as you see, I'm still working on and will be for a long time working on And God Shed His Grace by Artecy on 20 count easy guide fabric with all the called for colors. But first, let me say, if you're new here, welcome. And I am so glad that you decided to give this channel a try, especially when there are so many channels out there to watch these days. So I hope you find something that you like here and will hang around for a while. To all my subscribers, thanks so much for subscribing to the channel and for sticking with me through all the craziness that you might find here, because you just never exactly know what you're going to find. And to my VIP members, thank you so very much for all your encouragement and your support and your love of the channel. And just from the bottom of my heart, thank you. We've had some new VIP members just recently, so thank you so much for becoming part of the NeedleBugg family, and you are so appreciated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So today, I'm going to work on And God Shed His Grace. And again, I'm still stitching on the diagonal, but again, today I'm stitching my rows vertically. Okay, so I'm stitching them up and down like Brian of Blitz Stitch does, only I started in a different corner than him, so mine goes a bit differently, and I have it adapted to what works for me. Excuse me. So I'll try and explain yet again how I do it, just so that people don't end up too confused. In all honesty, I really am I really am enjoying this way, because I really think my stitches are looking just so much nicer. And so far, I'm not seeing any sign of diagonal column lines. Okay, before I get started, let me switch to my, as my daughter calls them, for those of you who have been around a while, my scientific goggles. That's what my daughter calls them. They're my new craft optic glasses, which, again, I need to make a video and review them. But man, I want to tell you, I'm in love. I just, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how I stitched without them before, to be perfectly honest with you. Even with the 20 count, they just help so much. It's remarkable, just remarkable. Sorry, I missed the hole there. If you are interested in them and you go check them out and you decide to purchase any, if you mention my name, you get $25 off. So just a shameless little plug there for you to get you a little bit of a discount. They will give you $25 off if you mention my name. But I just adore them. So anyway, what I'm doing here is I stitch by the color in the vertical row. So I picked up the first color and I did the first leg going up the row. I came back and crossed them, and now I'm going to park it. Whoops. Okay, get the right thing here. I'm going to park it over here, one row over in the first stitch. And I'm going to mark these as completed. Okay. So now we're going to go to the next symbol, which is the clover club. And I'm going to stitch this one and this one. I hope you can see that okay. I'm trying to look at my screen and I can kind of see that they're marked, but it's a little far away for me to actually see it well. So then I'm going to do the first half going up, and then I'm going to cross it on the way back. And what I'm always doing by stitching this way is I'm always starting at the lowest stitch in that vertical line. Okay, so I just stitched these two, and now I want to go to okay, I want to go to the next occurrence, so I'm going to go up here because the lowest stitch is actually the one at the top. Okay, so I am going to park it. I have an empty one here. I'm going to go up one and I'm going to park it here. Okay, because that, even though it's at the top, that is the lowest stitch in that vertical line of 10. And then the last one in that line is going to be the, I don't know what you call that symbol, curly Q, I don't know. So we're going to stitch this one. And then we're going to park it in the next vertical in the lowest occurrence. Now, this works the same way if you're stitching horizontal rows. All you do is take this and lay it on its side. Principle's the same. We're going to park it there. Now, if you see what I did here, I parked this particular thread. Whoops. Here we go. In above the two that are completed when I actually should have parked it down here below the two that are completed. So what I'm going to do is I may not have had my page or my tablet expanded as far as I should have when I did this. So what I'm going to do here is just come up in this one, do the first leg, go back up in this one above the two that are completed and do 2 more stitches. I don't know, for some reason here of late, We all know how Karen changes her mind all the time. For some reason, here of late, this particular method is just feeling quite comfortable, quite enjoyable. I hesitate to say it because you all know what happens when I say things like this. I hesitate to say it, but it might just be a method that I can live with for a longer period of time. I know. I hear you. I hear you all saying, yeah, right, Karen, you said that about how many other methods, how many other times, how many. Yeah, we know better. And you could very well be right. But right now, it feels quite comfortable and quite relaxing. And I'm not having, I don't know, I'm just not having big issues with it at the moment. So we stitched that, we stitched those two, we stitched this one, and we parked it down here. Okay, so that leaves us these little swirly gigs. So that would be these two. Okay. Now, if you have questions about this, comments, put it in the comments, and I will be happy to answer. I still need to go through some comments from my last videos. So bear with me. I am getting there. Now, what I'm going to do is I should not have unthreaded my needle there. Since there are only oh, I take that back. We're just going to do what we always do here. So we're going to start back down here at the bottom. And we're going to stitch this, 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 and this up the column. I mean, up the row. Columns, rows. Oh, yeah, yeah. And from here, you can see this is one strand, a single strand on 20 count. So you can tell, I believe, you can see the coverage. And, you know, you may on occasion see some white show through. But for the most part, I personally like this coverage. My own personal preference is that 2 strands on this is too much. It's too thick. 1 strand, yes, maybe you're going to see a little bit of white show through every now and again. However, we all know about the infamous 3-foot rule. If you stand back 3 feet, you're not going to notice it at all. So I am not, I would sooner, if I have to choose, I would prefer to have a little less coverage. I mean, not a lot that you see big hunks of white showing through, but I would prefer coverage more like this as opposed to coverage that is super thick. This is easier to work. If you have coverage that's too thick, too heavy, then I think, again, just my opinion, I think that it's too hard to get your needle through. It gets too bulky. It's too much. It's just too much. I don't think it looks as nice. I don't think the stitches lay as nice. Um, but again, that's just my opinion. It is all a matter of personal preference and what you like. You don't have to stitch the way I stitch. You don't have to like what I like. Oops, what did I miss a hole there? We don't, everybody has their own preferences, their own feelings, their own things that they like, and the way they like to stitch or the ways that they don't like to stitch. And people don't have to like what other people do. What they do have to do is accept that that person's way is the way that makes them happy. It's just a matter of accepting someone else's opinion and what they like. You know, imagine how boring this world would be if everybody liked the same things and did everything the same way. And oh, no, no, thank you. I'll take the variety. But the key word is acceptance. Accept their stitching for what their stitching is. As long as they're happy, that is truthfully all that matters. But I digress. We've talked about that a lot before. But I have a funny story for you today while I'm stitching here. Maybe not funny, just an interesting story. Yesterday, um, well, first off, yesterday I went for my annual mammogram, which I am try to be very faithful about doing every year. Down here. Hold on a second till I park this. Okay, here. Wait, that doesn't seem quite right. Or is it? Oh, that's because I didn't mark that one. All right. Okay. Anyway, I went for my annual mammogram. Okay. Which, if you don't do that, you really, really need to. You really, really need to be proactive, people. But anyway, came home, gathered up my husband, and we went for groceries, which in our house, it's only the two of us, and it's like a once a month deal. We go when we're running out of everything, and then we'll go and do a great big order. And then, but anyhow, we came home from the grocery store and we're carrying in the bags. And we're just finished. And my husband says to me, "Look at that. There's a baby squirrel in the yard." And it's just the tiniest, tiniest little thing. It couldn't be, and it couldn't be more than, maybe 5, 6 weeks old. A tiny little thing. And it's fumbling around in the grass a little bit, and then it makes its way over to the pine tree and starts to climb up the pine tree. And I go, oh, good. It's probably making its way back up to the nest. So we watch it, and it gets itself up to one of the limbs on the pine tree where it can rest. I mean, and this is just the tiniest little thing. It fits in the palm of, no bigger than the palm of your hand. Teeny little thing. Well, what seems to be a teeny little thing. So we figure, okay, it made its way. It must have fallen out of the nest and it's making its way back up. It'll be fine. Well, later we look out and it's in the yard again, down in the grass. But again, it makes its way over to the tree. And I'm assuming it's the tree that has the nest, has its nest in it. And he wiggles his way back up again. So we thought, oh, okay. I mean, it'll be fine. It's like you don't want to necessarily mess with nature. It seemed okay. It didn't seem injured. And it was making its using its poor little feet to go back up the tree. Okay. So we didn't think anything more about it. And the day wore on and it got dark out and what have you. So this morning I looked out the door. Oh, I didn't stitch this stitch up here. Um, Looked out the door thinking, oh, I wonder if he's up in the tree or if it's back down in the grass again. And I saw the faintest little wiggle out in the grass. I said to my husband, Glenn, I think that squirrel's down again. Well, lo and behold, the poor little guy either fell down again or um, came down the tree. I'm not exactly sure if it was falling down or if it was coming down and then too tired to get back up or whatever. But the poor little thing was laying in the grass, shivering like it was cold. And, well, can I just say that now there is a squirrel in a box in my kitchen? Poor little thing. So we need to figure out how. Well, what my husband's doing right now is has him kind of bundled up to get him warm because the poor little guy was just shaking and shivering like he was cold. So he has him kind of snuggled in a cloth to keep him warm. And we've oops, tried to give him some water to drink because what I read was that a lot of times they're probably really dehydrated. So, okay, we'll try and get some fluid in him to get him, he, she, I don't know how you tell a boy squirrel and a girl squirrel. I just call it he. Um, get him hydrated again. And once it's warmed up, has some fluids and seems to right now the little guy is just sleeping, sleeping, sleeping. He doesn't appear to be injured. Um, which I find like pretty outstanding. Like, wow, if he fell out of that tree, and I'm assuming if he fell a grand total of about 3 times. And if he's not injured, that's kind of pretty miraculous, I would think. So, like I said, he doesn't seem to be injured. So if he seems to come around on the other side of the house, we have another nest of squirrels. We have a lot of squirrels in our yard, put it that way. It's Squirrel City around here. It's a village. But what we think happened is there was a squirrel that was hit by a car the other day out in the street in front of our house. And it was on the other side of the street. So apparently the neighbor on that side of the street disposed of it, which was fine. But we kind of think that maybe that was this little guy's mother. And maybe it was hungry and thirsty and ventured out of the nest and down the tree, either looking for mama or looking for something to eat or drink. That's kind of what we think might have happened. We're not sure. So, what we're going to do, I think, is try and revive him a bit, get him where he's at least hydrated and moving around. And then over on this side of the house, which is, I'm in the porch, which is on the east side of the house, and he came out of a tree on the west side of the house. We have another nest of squirrels up in the trees here, so we thought maybe if we put him by the tree that this squirrel nest is in, that maybe they will adopt him and take care of him. Because we have 2 cats in the house. I don't know how 2 cats are going to take to a squirrel. And I don't know that I necessarily want a squirrel in the house. So if we can get him revived a bit, we'll try and hook him up with the squirrel family on this side of the. What did I just do here? One. Oh, sorry. I did skip one. That goes up there. Okay. Ooh, scared myself there for a minute. Um, yeah, we're gonna try and hook him up with the squirrel family on this side of the house and see if they don't adopt him. So that's my squirrel saga today. But I said we can't just well, we just can't let him out there. If we let him out there on his own, he might not make it. I know. And we have enough squirrels. We really, really have enough squirrels. But we really are a bunch of old softies. And I sent my daughter a text. I didn't hear back from her yet, but maybe she texted me and I'm using my phone, so I can't, I won't hear it if a text comes in. Um, but I text her some pictures to tell the kids, look what Papa has. She's a school teacher. Um, actually, she isn't teaching in a classroom anymore. Her position is she's a it's a resource person, a techni it's an IT, it's a computer type resources, and she's some kind of a resource person for teachers and to help them learn about new concepts in teaching. And she does a lot of work through the internet of coming up with these things. And she said the name of her position, and I can't remember what it technically is, but she loves it. She's part-time, which is great with the kids, and she just loves it. Okay, I did that. For some reason, I did not mark that one. It's already stitched, and I don't know why I didn't mark it before, but we all know how Karen can get a little confused sometimes. Okay, so this, we're going to put this here. Ah, this is why it helps to have your fabric gridded so that you can use that as well as your previous stitches. Now, before I go any further, I will tell you these grids tend to fade. My gray lines, I can't always see them. So what I'm going to use is my chalk pencil, and I go over the gray lines to make them stand out a bit more. And I just kind of do it in the section that I'm working in, because I have found that with the chalk pencil, they do rub off. Okay. And this is what I use, a Bohin mechanical pencil. And it has refills, and I use the green chalk because the gray chalk does not wash out as well. The yellow you can't see. Obviously, the white you can't see. So the green is the best, and it does rub off. And if you mark wrong, there is an eraser that you can erase it. See? There. So you can, I mean, you have to scrub a little bit, but it can be erased and put back on. Okay. I think well, no, I know I did talk about this in my other video. I caution you about not telling you don't use them. I'm telling you to be careful if you do use them. If you use the friction pens, I will just say, be careful. Yes, you can remove them with heat. You can iron them or take a blow dryer over your fabric, and the lines are going to disappear, because that's how the ink is made, to disappear with heat. And that is all well and good. But what I'm going to tell you is this. You may have removed the line from showing. However, that just deactivates the ink at that moment, and until it gets cold or some other environmental circumstance causes it to reappear. Cold is the biggest offender of it reappearing. However, there have been people who have had it reappear for no apparent reason. So, what I would advise you to do, if you can, is to wash your piece after you remove the lines with heat. Wash the piece to remove the residual ink, because it's that residual ink that can be reactivated, show a line, or even a yellow spot. But like I said, if you're stitching and all your stitching is dark like this, it's probably not going to matter. Where it matters is if you're stitching and what the colors are, light colors, are white or something very light where it can potentially show through. That's where you want to be careful. I think I have a knot underneath here. Something's going on. Okay, lift these up. No, you don't. Sometimes I think I feel things and I don't. Just didn't it just didn't feel quite right. Um yeah, if you have all dark colors, it's really probably a mute point. But if you have light colors, you want to be careful and you want to wash it and get rid of that extra ink in the fabric. Go straight across here to I just lost my place. Oh, here. Go straight across here to this. I think I did some stitches here that I didn't necessarily have marked. But that's not right either. Okay, there. Okay, there we go. Oh, so we can mark these two. We can park it here. Okay. Well, my friends, we're looking at about 3/4 of an hour. We did 55 stitches. So I think we're going to call that a day for today. And I hope you have gained a little bit more understanding of stitching A on the diagonal, B on parking your stitches, and C stitching vertically on the diagonal. Seems to be the way I'm finding the most, what's the word I want? Enjoyment? I don't know. It's just the way that happens to be working the best for me. Before I go, reminded me of a question that I got from a viewer about where to start your full coverage designs. Most directions for patterns tell you to start in the middle. And this person has always started her things in the middle. And middle starts are, I think, primarily so that you get the piece centered within your piece of fabric so that you have an elegant sufficiency of excess on each side for finishing, as in framing or making into a pillow or whatever your intended fully finish is going to be, so that you're perfectly centered and you have the same amount of excess fabric all the way around. And My feeling is that's predominantly the reason for recommending center starts. However, it is true that people that stitch full coverage start in a corner. Then her question became, which corner do you start in? Because people, and she's very right, people start in different corners. I think the best way to answer that is it depends on your preferred way of stitching. Now, if you look at Blitz Stitch, for example, his start is in the bottom left-hand corner. And that's because of, I'm assuming, and Brian, if I'm wrong and you're watching this, please correct me, but I'm assuming that that is due to the way that he completes his X so that he can always come up in a vacant hole and go down in a dirty hole. A vacant hole obviously is just that, a hole in your fabric that doesn't have any thread going through it yet or only has one pass of thread. A dirty hole is a hole that has two threads going through it. Okay, so if we look here, obviously all of these holes that have nothing are clean. Okay, this right here could be considered clean because it only has one. And I complete my X bottom left to top right. So I can come up here and go down here. When I cross it, I'm coming up here and going down here. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Now, on the other hand, when you look at this hole, this already has two threads in it. So that is a dirty hole. So when I am completing this stitch right here, I want to come, well, they're all dirty holes. The only one is a clean hole is here, but that would cross my X in the wrong direction. So here I would have no choice. Let's find another dirty hole. Okay, let's look at, get this thread out of the way. Okay, let's look at here. This hole is a dirty hole because there's already two threads going in it. This is considered clean, this is considered clean, and this is obviously clean. So my X's go from bottom left to top right. But there's nothing that says I can't stitch top right to bottom left. So in order to put this stitch in here, I'm going to come up top right, go down bottom left, and when I cross it, I'll come up in either one of these two and cross it. The reason that you do that is so that you don't pull either of these threads loose. Because what you're doing is when it has that many threads in, you're going down. So once there's 3 threads in there, you definitely want the 4th one to go down. So that being said, in determining the corner that you start in, is determined by how you stitch your threads or stitch your X's. Now, I have a chart and I can put a link to that in the drop-down box where I've diagrammed different corners and how you would stitch out of each of those corners dependent upon how you cross your X's. I'm going to try and link that in the drop-down box for you so that you can have access to those documents. They're just hand drawn by me. I have one that shows if you cross your X bottom left to top right, and I have another one drawn if you cross your X from bottom right to top left. It also depends on, do you like to stitch from the top down or from the bottom up? That's also another factor that factors into which corner you start in. Because truth be told, you can start in any one of the four corners. It's all okay. You can start in the middle. Now, if you're going to stitch parking and on the diagonal, I don't know that I would start in the middle. If you're going to stitch by column, you could start in the middle and stitch either down to the bottom or up to the top, and you could do that. And I'm not saying you can't. You could, I guess, when I think about it, for all intents and purposes, you have your diagonals marked. If you use Pattern Keeper, you can find the center of your chart. You know where the center of your fabric is. You could start on that center diagonal and stitch down to the bottom left corner or up to the top right corner, and then you could go from there either direction. Totally up to you. There is no rule that says you must start in the middle. There's no rule that says you must start in this particular corner. When you're doing full coverage, what you look at is, what direction do I cross my X's? What direction do I want to stitch? Top down, bottom up. And then you decide what corner is going to meet what I want to do the best. And then that's how you determine. Because I'm stitching my rows vertically as opposed to horizontally is why I started in the lower right, because I always come up in this outside hole and cross to the previous completed X. So I come up here, cross to the previous row. When I'm crossing that X, I come up here and go down in the previous row. So I'm always coming up where there's unfinished rows to my left. And I'm always going down where there's completed stitches to my right. If I was coming in the lower right-hand corner, I would do the same thing. I would find the way. I would either stitch bottom up or top down, depending on the first leg of my stitch, so that I'm always coming up in a clean hole to my right and a dirty hole to my left. So it's just some things to think about. I will attempt to link those two diagrams in the drop-down box for you so that you would have them as a reference to help you decide which corner is best for you to start in. A lot of things to think about. Okay, so now I think that is going to be it for today, and I will see you the next time. And I hope you remember, there are no rules in cross stitch, only the ones you set for yourself. So until the next video, take care, have a great week, and I will see you next time.